This is Gaming Solo, and today we're going to talk about FPS weapons. Last week we touched on armor, and there's a subject that I avoided because I wanted to about it regarding weapons. But first, I want to kind of go over the whole balancing act, literal balancing act that CIG is trying to do. With Tier 0, they have created a problem where some of the rarest and most powerful weapons are now very commonly used because you can't lose them. The grenade launcher and the railgun are the two that come to mind. I know everyone has kind of their favorites, and there might be other guns that people are like, oh, well, this one's really good. And you're right, and I'm going to get to one of those, but the two I just mentioned are definitely an overpowered piece of the puzzle for the FPS in Star Citizen, and they are going to struggle hard, I believe, with getting those right. The problem with those is, a grenade launcher is more of an infantry kind of thing, right? Where you're trying to target multiple targets at once. I guess you could use it on a single target, but right now ammunition and things like that don't matter. I mean, it's so cheap to buy anything that you need in the verse right now, even up to the more expensive, vehicle components. Especially when money has no real value and you can't lose it once you buy it. There's no real incentive to not use a grenade launcher if you find one, or a railgun if you find one. So we have that problem going on, but the there's nothing they're going to be able to do about that, right? The railgun and the grenade launcher are meant to be very powerful weapons, and until they get the proper insurance in instead of the tier 0 that we have now, that's just going to be a rolling pain in the butt. Now, some other weapons are getting nerfs, like the Karna, which is my favorite in the current live patch. In the PTU, it has seen quite a nerf. I say quite a nerf. The recoil is worse now, and it's going to take a little more to stay on target with it. Skilled players are going to be able to still kind of use it, and as long as they're not nerfing the damage, which I haven't seen, and I might have missed that, but if they're not nerfing the damage that thing can put out in the auto mode, then I don't really see that lowering in its usefulness in FPS scenarios. I will say that being an energy rifle, it did, and you'll see in my, or you probably already saw, you might have already saw at this point in the background video, I could not shoot through the hanger of the 890 jump that I was assaulting. And I didn't even think about that. Usually I use a P4, and I wanted to try out the Karna because I have a couple from events and stuff like that in my general inventory, and I just wanted to do something different. And I tried shooting at the enemies, wasn't hitting them. I had to go in to the hangar to be able to hit them. So that's a good balance for an energy weapon that's a little OP. And in the future, if you're able to recharge the ammo packs, then that's even more of a potential overpowered situation there. So it's good that there's some limitations on those energy weapons. I think I'll be looking more at the P4s still. I don't know. The P4s and the C54s are usually my go-tos. P4 really being the one that I really like to use. I just I always go back to those. They're typically pretty good. They're not necessarily the meta, but they get the job done, right? And they're a little overly common in the verse, especially in Stanton, so it's easy to get ammunition for them when you're running low in the field and things like that. But the Karna has been pretty fun, but I don't see myself using it long term with the nerf that's coming. I'm not the best FPS player. I like more scout gameplay and sniping and things like that, which you've probably seen in some of my videos, me using the sniper rifle and the Coda. That's kind of my favorite one-two punch there. Scalpel specifically on the sniper rifle, but the, the FPS gameplay is definitely interesting with the nerfs and buffs and things. It kind of reminds me of the constant updates that games like Call of Duty are receiving for balance, but it also is reminiscent of what WoW's doing, not just with weapons and stuff, but they typically do it with builds, right? They see a build that's too powerful and they nerf it. And that's kind of the only thing that CIG has to do as far as nerfs in the verse for FPS specifically. Obviously, there's a lot they can do with ships, but in FPS, all they can really do, because there's no skills, there's no crazy, physics or jumping like in Halo or anything crazy like that we have in the verse for our FPS players. The guns become the target for nerfs and buffs and things like that. The thing that I didn't talk about when talking about the armor last week is the incoming system that's called Maelstrom. Most of us probably think of that as the environmental destruction, things like that. But Maelstrom, we forget, is going to also be something that weapons and armor are going to be a part of. And your armor and weapons are going to wear out over time as they're being used and as your armor is being shot. And even, I imagine, your guns could be shot and damaged as well, and it's not something that people are talking a lot about, which is interesting. I know that we haven't seen much on Maelstrom lately, and I'm assuming that most of us are assuming it's not coming anytime soon, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the next 18 months. It is something they've been working hard on. They have given us kind of an engine demo of it at the previous Citizen Con. I don't think the most recent one had any, but the one before that, we got a nice video showing off what Maelstrom can do, and it makes me just wonder if it's getting built into the engine and uh, maybe coming when the next Planet Tech update comes. But that is something that we have to consider when dealing with our FPS, because that's going to be a huge update in FPS. It's going to feel a lot more like Battlefield than we currently have. You're going to be able to hide behind cover, sure, but that cover can be worn down. As I mentioned, grenade launchers, that would be a use for a grenade launcher, right? Launching a grenade right there on some cover that someone's hiding behind, letting that cover get blown up or at least damaged substantially with just one or two shots. That's going to be a big deal in the gameplay. I'm wondering, though, how far they're going to go with Maelstrom, because things like contested zones now exist. Are we going to be able to shoot up the contested zones, which are inside the space stations? Are we going to be able to shoot up the space stations that we're going to in Stanton now for the new missions there? It leaves a few questions in my head of what all Maelstrom is going to actually encompass. There's going to have to be some kind of structural integrity in certain places. I doubt they're going to allow us to take out entire space stations that are supposed to be static, right? I'm sure you'll be able to damage space stations that are player created. Maybe not completely destroy them, but I'm sure there's going to be damage that can be done to them that will have to be repaired during PvP raids on them and things like that. But I wonder how far they're going to take it. And the weapons. When I think of Maelstrom, I know that most people probably think of environment, maybe even armor. I think of the weapons, because the weapons are what are going to be interacting in that system in the on the FPS side. And I'm wondering how they're going to allow energy weapons to damage structures, if they're going to allow energy weapons to damage structures. Maybe it leaves singes on them or something. Maybe a strong enough energy weapon will penetrate certain materials and things. But it's going to be interesting, and it's going to build a lot on the diversity, and I think it's also going to force us into utilizing different kinds of weapons more often, other than just sinking into our own personal meta or seeking out some kind of game meta. And I think they can use Maelstrom to kind of push people out of this is daily weapon that I use in every single scenario. I think we're going to get to start using those weapon lockers a lot more that are in those ships of ours that have them, and be able to diversify our arsenal based on our situations and our environments and things like that. Another thing I wanted to note before we go, I wanted to find out everyone's thoughts on this whole med gun thing that's going on. They have combined the pistol and med gun slots into one. Instead of the med gun being considered a utility, it's now considered a pistol. So if you run some kind of pistol build, or if you prefer certain pistols, I mentioned earlier I like to run with the Coda, you're not going to be able to run with a med gun. Sure, you can get the medical attachment for your tractor beam. Is that as good as a med gun? Nah. Med gun's definitely a lot better. You can throw it in your backpack and use it on the side, but you'll notice in my videos I have a tendency to, instead of going through stims, I like to pull out the med gun and heal up if I have a minute and I'm behind cover and I'm not being shot at, between little bouts in FPS gameplay. And that's something that I've kind of gotten used to, and I guess I can still use that as long as I don't have a pistol with me. But when I have a pistol, I'm not going to be able to do it. Now, the update's not out yet. I expect the update to be out within the next week. Maybe even by the time you see this video. This is being recorded on Thursday night. So it's very, very possible that tomorrow, when this video releases, that 4.1.1 is live. I haven't seen chatter about it going live, but I know CIG is trying to button this up before Invictus Week here in a couple weeks. So who knows? Maybe it'll be up. But if they don't make any changes quick on that, I think we're stuck with that med gun pistol slot change, which I'm not a big fan of. But let me know in the comments. Do you think Maelstrom's going to be as big of a deal as I make it out to be? Do you want to go picket and riot outside of CIG headquarters because of the med gun situation? What are your thoughts? Drop them down in the comments below. Go ahead and like and subscribe for more videos like this, and I will catch you guys next time in the verse.